Good evening, everyone. You're listening to Red Pill 78. I am the corruption detector, and this is your Red Pill News. I just want to say thank you, everyone, for joining us tonight. Hope that everyone was able to catch the show we did last night with Dylan, Educating Liberals. It was an excellent show. Had a lot of many good times doing that show. Tonight, we are going to be speaking with the unfortunate victim of medical kidnapping in the state of Colorado. Cyndie Abcug is going to be joining us. Her disabled son was stolen by the Children's Social Services. I don't know what it's specifically called in Colorado. It's called Children's Protective Services, where I'm from. But Cyndie's going to be joining us to speak about her case. Also in the second hour, Juan O'Savin and Yensid are going to be joining us. Just want to give a couple of quick shout-outs to people in the audience. I see we've already got Patriots from Gainesville here. We've got a couple people from Texas. Let's see, Oregon, another Oregon, Woodstock, Ontario, Canada. Let's see, who else is in the audience? We've also got people from Gainesville, another couple of people from Florida, Lima, Ohio, Pittsburgh, Pennsylvania. And it looks like we've got lots of people filtering in now. San Diego, Australia, Tampa, California, Maryland, Alabama, Northeastern Pennsylvania, Portage, Utah, St. Louis, Pittsburgh, Pennsylvania, Minnesota, Kalamazoo, Michigan, New York, Sarasota, Florida, New Zealand, excellent, Texas, Virginia, Tallahassee, Florida, South Dakota, Michigan, MAGA country, I like that one. If I could have everyone in the audience please help us out tonight. I was told by several people that no notification went out on this show, and it's a very, very important show, so if everyone would please be so kind as to share it on their favorite social media platforms so that we can get the message out. We're going to go ahead and switch screens here, and we're going to begin speaking with Cyndie, and here we are. All right, Cyndie, hello, and welcome to Red Pill 78. Thank you for joining us tonight.
Hi, good evening. How are you?
I'm doing well. I want to thank you for coming on and speaking with us. This is a really heartbreaking case. So I became aware of it when I was sent the article from PJ Media, Megan Fox, excellent reporting by Megan Fox. And this is something that's all too familiar to us here. You know, we've had Michael Volpe on the program before. We've spoken about many other issues such as this, parents and children both being victimized with what is ostensibly a kidnapping by a state entity. And somebody with absolutely no legal standing, you know? I mean, they decide that they want to come into someone's home and that they know better than the parents, and they take your child away. So please tell us exactly what happened here, and how long has it been since you've seen your son?
Thank you. Today's day 45. We haven't talked to him or seen him since he's been taken. And we miss him a lot. It's really been difficult. So we're just keeping moving forward. We're trying to get the word out. I just want to shout out to the general audience that 46 days ago, if you would have told me that something like this was possible, I would not have been aware of it. I just would have thought there's got to be more to the story. If somebody tells you that CPS has, removed a child, I did not know this was going on. So it's been a real enlightening 45 days here.
And the horrible irony of the issue is that you're not even from Colorado. You actually moved to Colorado to get better care for your child, if I'm not mistaken. Is that what happened?
Yeah, originally, so I'll start off with the timeline. About a year and a half ago, I have a 7-year-old son, Michael, who has an uncontrolled seizure disorder. I'm the mother of 4. I have 2 older boys. I have a daughter, 15, who's here with me, and I have a 7-year-old disabled son. Due to his seizure disorder, and he has a possible genetic condition. They're still trying to pinpoint that down. He is intellectually and developmentally disabled. So his doctor, about a year and a half ago, transferred us out here to Colorado Children's Hospital to try to get to the bottom of what was causing his seizures. We got out here. He enrolled into kindergarten. I enrolled him into kindergarten. It was a half day. Out here in Colorado, it's a little bit different than Florida. They have half days. He was doing okay in a half day at the school because there was a teacher and 2 aides in a small classroom. When he was getting ready to go into the first grade, I'm in Douglas County, Colorado. The Douglas County School District kind of had like a battle between the his head doctor, his head neurologist at the hospital, who had written a letter to the school saying that he needed support, that he needed to have a paraprofessional. He needed somebody to help him do his activities, be close to him on the playground, use the restroom safely, open his lunch. And what ended up happening was the school declined those services. And I decided, instead of moving forward with any kind of legal action or mediation, or trying to go take some years to get that, follow the doctor's orders, that I would homeschool him. So that was a small feat to take on. And that was in November of last year. And then by January, I had the, out here it's also called the Child Protective Services. Seems to be under the umbrella of the Department of Human Services, which is their larger organization. And this caseworker came to my front door in January and wanted to interview both of my children. I'm out here with the 2 minor children. And I asked her, what was going on, what was this about? And she told me that it was a possible misrepresentation of illness. And at that point, I just, gave her all the doctor's information and told her to call the doctor. I didn't see any problem with her interviewing my children at that point, calling the doctors, I should say. Mm-hmm. So she did a quick interview and she left. I wasn't aware that she should have interviewed my son according to ADA guidelines. I wasn't aware that, my daughter, that she had to, interview my daughter with certain guidelines as well, due to a trauma situation my daughter had. And she came back again in February. When she came back again in February and interviewed the kids for a second time and left again, still no action. She told me she was continuing to gather medical records to prove whoever this, quote, anonymous, you never get to face your accuser in these calls, which was another thing.
Real quick, Cyndie, did it appear that there was, was it contentious when you removed your son from the school? Like, did they seem to object to it, or did they raise any concerns with you when you were pulling him out?
I think what happened was, they were legally supposed to be providing him with this service because he has a right to a free and public education. Yeah. So there's an attorney. He ended up getting an attorney that got involved through Colorado disability law, and she even tried to get them, because of his disability, to get the proper services so he could go to school. Yeah. And the school didn't want to give it to him, and the principal said to me, well, I'm not spending money on that. And I thought, well, okay, I don't have any other disabled kids that need services, so I didn't know that it was such a big deal. And so it became a battle. And the one day that he did go, the school nurse was upset because she had to stay with them because they wanted to do a trial. And she dropped his heart monitor in the toilet. So, at that point, he was wearing some kind of testing monitor for 30 days. And now that went down the toilet, literally. And
now, did they replace it? Or was that up to you to end up replacing the equipment? It was up to the insurance company. Okay. They didn't replace it. They said it was his fault. Wow. So, and he's not supposed to be in the bathroom. And I think you have those letters there with you. I think you have the letters from the doctors. And, I don't have the paperwork in front of me. I've done several other shows. You can go up and look them up, where I'm actually showing the documentation that I've given to you of, the attorney's letters to the school, the doctor's letters to the school that has, a laundry list of his seizures, his ataxia. He needs someone to help him put his coat on, open his lunch, go to the bathroom. He needs this kind of help. We're not talking about small help. And so he ended up being homeschooled. And I think that, to answer your question in kind of a long-winded editorial type way, I think that there was if I was fabricating or making up his illnesses or misrepresenting them, I guess is what they said, it exonerates the school from a lawsuit. Okay, all right. Well, that's I guess that's kind of understandable for them in a twisted way, obviously they don't have the best interest of you or your son or his health and wellness in mind, and so of course, if there are a twisted organization. They're looking to cover their own butts. I mean, it's incredible. I mean, you do have just an incredible amount of evidence showing exactly what's wrong with him, and the idea that you would bring this stuff forward, bring forward your concerns, ask for things that you are you should be getting. These are services that your son is deserving and that he is owed, especially under the circumstances. And they want to do whatever they can to make it seem like it doesn't exist and they haven't done anything wrong. So back to what happened with them coming in, and I believe you were at like the second visit they had come, and they said they were still looking for medical records.
They said they were waiting for medical records. During the meantime, I wasn't really going to share much about this. My daughter, it's a trigger, has a history of trauma. She's 15, and for her to be interviewed, it was she was seeing a counselor, and her counselor had wanted her to not be interviewed by the department due to her trauma without therapeutic support. Again, the support. And so the department decided that they weren't going to do that, and they weren't going to follow that professional or clinical recommendation. And my daughter ended up having a suicide attempt 3 days after their interview.
Oh, no.
Because it was so hard for her. She ended up in the ICU. So then they said, well, not our fault. And so then they came back and wanted to interview her for a third time. And on that third time is when I emailed them and said, no, you can't do this, because number one, you have to have somebody who can interview my son, as you can read in the hospital and in his specialist paperwork that I sent you. Mm-hmm. He has cognitive disabilities. I don't talk to him about his illness, so they needed to, and they were asking questions like, when do you have seizures? Are they sick? I try to, I've told him the reason he has all these therapies is that he's in Power Ranger training. So, now they're scaring him with these interviews. So I declined the interview, and after I declined the interview, that's his puppy. I don't know if that's taken background. If you can hear that. Sorry.
Don't worry about that. It's okay.
She, after the third interview, when I sent them an email saying, listen, he's too little and too fragile to talk about this stuff with you. My daughter needs therapeutic support. She already had a suicide attempt. It's not that I'm not willing to cooperate. It's just I don't need your services. And they were trying to offer me, we had a family meeting where 3 of his providers went in. They were trying to offer me, and this is kind of like, I guess, a warning to the folks out there who because I didn't see this coming. They said, wow, it looks like all these appointments are so hard for you. Why don't we get you an appointment maker, like a medical navigator? And I thought, wow, that sounds like
I said, or a minder. Right? Yeah. They want to keep tabs on you, I would imagine. And then I would think that's an easy way for them to insert themselves into your life so that they can keep constant watch on you and make it that much easier for them to just swoop in and take your child from you.
I never thought about that, but that's a possibility. The night before, and I thought that was a great idea. So here I was, I was under the impression and had not had the paradigm shift yet that the Child Protective Services was, the front soldiering lines for funneling in the trafficking.
Yeah.
I had not been open to that yet. I'd not been awake for that. I did not understand that's what was going on. I thought they protected children. If anybody had their kid taken, then guess what? They must be an abuser. That was my mentality. And 45 days later, it's a much different story. I went down to the family meeting the night before this family meeting where I was really excited about signing for this appointment maker. I had received a call from I'm a little scattered, from a whistleblower, not a whistleblower, inside source, an anonymous inside source from the department, somebody who had retired from there, who had told me that not to sign anything at this meeting. I was going to go down and they were going to, give me this appointment maker. And he said, that service doesn't exist. They're going to take your son and sign something. So I thought, this guy sounded nuts, wow, that's really far-fetched.
Did he tell you how he came across your case? If he was retired, how had he heard about this?
No, I didn't, and
Okay.
I wouldn't. Yeah,
Okay.
I just he did say there was a business model.
Yeah.
There was a business model prepared, and there was some profiling, but he did not tell me. He told me there was a business model, that they had a whole business model worked out on how to take the kids, and that's just about as much as I'll say about that.
Okay.
If it wasn't for him, I would have gone in there and signed up for what they call services. And from what I'm hearing within the past, month and a half, with all the parents that have had their kids medically kidnapped or illegally kidnapped by the state or by their county, one and the same, they have signed up for services. And it's like a dangling carrot saying, if you do this, it's kind of like an intimidating, bullying factor. In my case, I just had enough. As you can see with all the medical stuff, I had enough.
Yeah.
And so when they told me they would get me someone to help me with the appointments, I think that's all they could really throw at me. I'm not a drug user. I'm not a, drinker, don't have an anger problem. So when we got to the, which seems to be, and I say those things because those seem to be the things that they contract with for services.
Right.
If you get mad because they take your son or daughter away or all your kids away, then of course you're mad. Then you go to anger management and they decide how long you do that. And then you pay out of pocket and then you lose your job. And then it just tailspins from there, from what I'm seeing. I went in and didn't sign the paper. I asked them to put it in writing. I think you have the writ of habeas corpus there for his illegal detainment.
Yes.
Did you see? Did I send you that? Yeah. So on that, I think my attorney points out that I was asking them to put it in writing. I was asking them, please put this in writing, because what that guy said, I put it in the back of my head. And when they refused to put that in writing, I said, well, I'll take this home and look at it. And within a very short period of time, they told me, I received an email that I needed to go down to the courthouse into room 7 at the courthouse. And I needed to officially sign a paper saying I didn't need the services. And because I said, I finally said to him, I don't need an appointment maker, and I went down and I kept asking, emails back and forth as to, let me roll back a little bit with this.
Okay.
If anybody doesn't know, you're supposed to have, like, I think it's called a summons, or you're supposed to be sent a paper saying why you're going to a court hearing.
Right.
I thought this was some kind of a meeting, and I was sent an email that said to come on down and decline the services. I tried to call everybody to find out what it was, your case number, what was in writing. I couldn't get any paperwork. And so I go down so I talked to my friend who's an attorney, and I asked him, and he said, this is so weird. I can't find this anywhere in the system. And then I get down there and it's not on what's called a docket, which is on the outside of a courtroom. Name's not on there. So nobody, and it was quiet, quiet at church, on a Friday night, I guess. And so he says, go down to see what, what they have to say. I get down to the courthouse, me and a friend go. About 8 people from the department walk into this courtroom that's empty and kind of dark. And they're, and I thought that was kind of my first, wow, why is there so many people? What's happening? And still no paperwork, which is called a petition, which is something that, in my case, if they're going to take your children, they need to show you what you're being alleged of. So here I am, no crime, no paperwork, no, court subpoena or whatever, no summons to come on down to the court. And they announced that, or the attorney for the department comes over and he wants me to sign a paper that states, I have read the entire petition, which are the allegations against me, and understand my consequences. I declined to sign that. They asked me to fill out a paper for court-appointed counsel, which is an attorney that they will appoint you from the court. Let me get a drink here. From the court, and I was over the income. So the magistrate at that point made a unilateral decision to appoint me court-appointed counsel anyway. I still, at this point, had not seen any allegations or paperwork, and had not seen a petition, and had not seen, did not know the nature of the proceeding.
So they
So
essentially invited you there for what you assumed was a more informal meeting, when in fact they were actually, preparing to bring some type of charges against you within this Children and Family Services court system.
Yeah, well, in a nutshell, they lured me in with the guise of, we're going to just come on down. Very, very casual, folks. Come on down. You just need to officially sign it because we're a department and you got to sign it to the court and say you don't need our services. Just because somebody called, you got to decline it. That's kind of the atmosphere, if you wanted me to build it up.
Yeah.
So I didn't have any, I thought, okay, but I thought it was weird. Why do I have to go to a courthouse to sign it? Can't you just mail it to me?
Mm-hmm.
So, but I went because this agency that I thought was, in charge told me to come down there. I went without anything. And then when I got into the courtroom, it was a full-blown hearing.
Wow.
And I know that that's against the law. So that was one of the things I'm hearing. I haven't heard that story yet, but I do hear that they come in and remove the children or child without, due process and a violation of your constitutional rights.
It seems like it happens a lot in situations where children are homeschooled, especially. Like it's almost like as soon as they learn that there are kids that are being educated outside of the public education system, they immediately do whatever they can to come and remove them from you.
I haven't noticed that.
Yeah.
That was the situation in my case, and it was about the money. My son gets disability. I think my case, was about the medical situation and about the money, both.
Well, we can definitely get into that.
I do have knowledge that somebody did show me the quotas and the different amounts of money that the department got the minute they walked out the door with him. I think it was anywhere from $4,000 to $6,000 when they took him out.
Wow.
But yeah, and then there's, of course, his father's passed away. So there's the survivor's benefits. There's the Social Security for his disability. There's a lot of other factors that tie into the money. He's a real money maker for them. Plus, he has a rare condition, and it seems like the rare conditions, the Native American Indian blood, the blonde hair, blue eyes, redheads are real popular with the trafficking, and selling. It's just mind blowing. So I get into the courtroom. The counsel sits down with me, my court-appointed counsel, and she tells me that we're at a temporary custody hearing. And I said, for what? And she said, for your son. And I said, oh, okay. That's news to me. And the department gets up and starts reading a list of allegations, that were false. And the attorney that I'm with says, we don't, I object to this court-appointed. And the magistrate says, no, too many inconsistencies. And don't even have any paperwork. I have none of his medical file. You see the amount of evidence I have sitting there. I have none of his paperwork. I have nothing to show to the court. I have nothing to counteract these false charges or false allegations that they're trying to give me, to even prove that they're wrong. So the magistrate says, we order the child into the custody of the department. It was a whirlwind. So they come straight to my house, and he's playing Jenga with his sister in the living room. And that's the last time I've seen him in 45 days.
Oh, I'm so sorry.
It's really hard to talk about.
I understand.
And I'm trying to get they told my daughter she would talk to him in a couple of days. Moving forward, just to update you, at that court hearing on May 17th, they wrote on a piece of paper for me to go take a drug test, something, it's called a hair follicle test. I'd never heard of it.
Yeah. And
a urine test. And so they wrote it on a little piece of paper and ripped off an edge. It wasn't official. It was just a ripped off edge. And so I was still once I got home and saw the petition, I said, I better go do this so I can prove them that I don't, do drugs.
Of course.
They didn't put drug charges or drug allegations in the petition, but I just wanted to try to do that. So when I get down to the some offender's lab or some place, I guess, where you go and they cut a big piece of the part of my ponytail off on the top,
right,
where
right.
you go get, where you go get this testing done. I said to the girl when I was done, I'm going to need a copy of that. And she said, oh, no. The only person who gets a copy is the caseworker. Now, I just want to point out the person who wrote this like 10 to 15 pages of allegations that created this emergent situation and this painted this picture of me without giving me any availability of effective counsel, due process, any chance to defend myself when they're taking my son. She wrote this up on a sworn affidavit, and she basically also is the one who wrote the drug test, and she was the one who was going to be getting the drug test results.
Yeah.
So at that point, because of the fact that she had written the false allegations, I'm like, that's not happening. So I asked the girl, I said, I'm not going to just, count on her, the liar. So I said, well, you better write down exactly. I asked the offender lab to write down exactly what they were testing me, like what the name, there's panels and this,
right.
that, like I said, write down exactly what you're doing so I can go tomorrow and get exactly the same test. And what lab do you send it to? And I had gone down and got the exact same test and sent it to the same lab as them, but I did a private pay. And I got my test results within a couple of days. They came back everything negative as I suspected it would. And the department, probably about 4 or 5 days after that, emails me that my drug test came back positive. And do I want to explain to them my drug use? So it's been every angle they've tried to hit me with: the false allegations, the no due process, and then now the falsified drug test. I think, does Megan have that in her article there?
Yes, I believe that was in there.
I think it's in Megan's article, because that happened at the tail end of when she was writing up the article. The girl had emailed me about the drug test, and I thought, wow. So if anybody ever orders you to drug test and you don't do drugs, you might want to go get your own, especially if it's the Department of Human Services, because you can't trust the labs.
Yes.
And I mean, I'm not, saying this disgruntled, I'm not disgruntled, not trying to be angry about it. I'm just saying this is just the facts. And I've got a stack of evidence to prove it. So I then suspect, then I can't get a copy of the file. So then we've had court hearing. They've removed my son. I'm waiting to find out what's next. And I have this court-appointed attorney who does absolutely nothing for me. She does nothing. She wouldn't return my emails. She acted almost like if we're playing a game of chess, her position would be the staller. So she has this position in this, ring where she's, hobnobbing with the, people in the good old boys club, and she's stalling the case and keeping me happy, thinking what she's saying is true, and I'm like, well, that's not right. Because I'm educated, I'm telling her, this isn't what you should be doing. They illegally took my son. So I made a complaint against her and got her to write up a motion to review the magistrate's order. She wrote it up. And that wasn't, that took weeks, by the way, and was done without me at 6 o'clock in the morning. I still don't know what the answer to that was.
Wow.
And then, so I asked her to withdraw. I end up getting an attorney from the GoFundMe. I have the GoFundMe at the end of the article and tagged on to a lot of these interviews. And Jay Fisher is my attorney. He's an incredible guy. And I don't know if you looked up any of his credentials or if any of his bios are on any of my videos, but he is, he really came to bat for my son and my family, and he filed a writ of habeas corpus to find my son. I think we were at about 20 days at that point, or 20 something days. He also went into court this past Wednesday and, pointed out the different areas where, I can't remember when I talked to you. Was it Wednesday night I talked to you?
I believe so, yeah.
Okay, so I guess I didn't update you, because Wednesday we had gone to court and my attorney finally had proven that they had broken the law so I would get visits.
Oh, good.
And that happened Wednesday. And then Thursday, the guardian ad litem, which if anybody doesn't know what that is, that's the person who is assigned to be looking out for my son's best interest. She appears to have quite a bit of power in this case. She was objecting to the judge. She was objecting to this. She was, so she comes in after I get visits the next day, and she emails my attorney that somehow overnight she has found the original transcripts from that secret hearing, the first one.
Okay.
And those transcripts do not match the order to remove him. And the order to remove him says that she will have all the decision making as to whether or not I have visits. So she changes the transcripts in complete order in an email. How she has this power, I don't know. And the order that we finally got to remove him was, I think, sent to my attorney this past Tuesday, like in the middle of the night, and I saw it for the first time this past Wednesday, a few days ago. So from what I understand, I don't even know if it's a lawful order. First of all, yes, they illegally took him. I don't know if the order that the judge signed, Rebecca Moss, the magistrate, I don't know if that's a lawful order, because it's stamped in the clerk of courts 4 days prior to being signed.
Oh, wow. Now,
and I don't know if any, my attorney kept telling me that. He said, do you understand what this means? And I'm like, so they waited 4 days to, and he said, you don't understand. They're supposed to sign it and then stamp it. He said, why is it stamped and then signed 4 days later? What did they change on the second page? And I'm like, I have no idea. This is the first time I'm seeing it. His entire file is missing from the clerk of circuit courts. Nobody can find his file, which, if you don't know, the file's never supposed to leave the court unless you're doing, I guess, some kind of special hearing or having a hearing. So we're at the hearing this past Wednesday, and the judge can't even find the file.
Wow.
I mean, so bottom line is my son is missing. God, that's heartbreaking. And his file is missing. There's no information on his whereabouts, and it appears that the only person who really knows where he is, this guardian ad litem in this department, won't let anybody know where he is. So who knows where he is? It's just, and it's all been done unlawfully. I just, it's hard to wrap your head around if you're not familiar with what's going on.
Well, even for me, knowing that it has happened way too many times, it's still difficult to wrap your head around. I mean, obviously, this has been a concerted effort, I mean, they plotted to specifically remove your son before anything had even been found in court. They did absolutely everything out of the correct order. They did it illegally. I mean, so what has your contact been with this woman? I mean, has it only been through email? Has it been through phone? Has she stopped by your home? Did she try to see your son when he was at school? Or did you only come across her just in the process of, getting all this dumped in your lap?
Are you talking about the guardian ad litem, the one who has? Yeah. I saw her for the first time at that May 17th court hearing where they removed my son illegally. Okay. And her role from the Chief Justice Directive states that she's supposed to be doing an independent investigation on whether or not my son should be home. So my older two boys have called her, and I'll just give the audience, your viewers, an example of a couple of the allegations. My 22-year-old, who just graduated from Washington and Lee and just got accepted into Duke, has had an incredibly healthy childhood. One of the allegations on this list that this caseworker, 20-something years old, wrote is that I gave him chemotherapy. I just decided one day to give my son chemotherapy. So somehow I found chemo. By the way, he's never had chemo. So he writes a letter, pull up his medical records. He's never been sick like that. I don't know what I mean? This is what she writes. She writes in there that I've shaved my daughter's head. Well, my daughter's hair is almost down to her waist. These are things that have never happened. I mean, they were ridiculous. But if you were up there as the magistrate reading this and looking at me with no paperwork, you would say, God, this woman gave her other son cancer and shaved her daughter's head. Now she's got the baby. We better do something. So that's kind of the picture that they painted. Now, moving forward to what your question was about this guardian ad litem, her role is to do an independent investigation separate of the department so she can make sure that my son, what's true is what's true. She has not interviewed any of my son's professionals. Mm-hmm. She has not interviewed the doctors. She will not call back the therapist. She will not return back any of my family members' calls. Did you see Jeremy's letter in there, my son's letter?
Yes, that's in the case summary, is it?
I think so. And he writes this letter to the state. He writes it to the ombudsman, to the all the regulating agencies over this department. And he says, hey, this is ridiculous. My brother, I've watched my brother have seizures. I've watched him been sick. My mom's not misrepresenting anything. Plus, I never had cancer. I never had chemo. And he's like, this is ridiculous. Somebody call me. He's been reaching out to everybody. Nobody's called him. My other son's been reaching out. She's just not doing a thorough investigation. I was on a show just a little bit ago before I came on here. I think it's called We Hold These Truths. The host of that show found an article about this guardian ad litem when he was doing some research, and he brought it up. And because it's already out there, I think I could probably bring it up. Her name is Christina Brigham. Yeah. She actually, she must have some connections because she is a lawyer. She has no disciplinary actions on the bar. There's a police report last year for child abuse. Now she's the one, I have no record. Her record has been not sealed, but pressed. So she had a police report of dragging a disabled boy out of a car and him having to go to the hospital. Another report of falsifying visits with children and falsifying the information to have them permanently removed away from good parents. She's actually charged from the Supreme Court with this, and she's the one in charge of my case. Back in the saddle. And all she got was a couple weeks of a disciplinary action, which was probably a vacation. They probably sent her on vacation somewhere.
Is she located in Castle Rock, Colorado?
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah. I have found some reports from someone else who had a run-in with her.
A lot of people have.
Yeah.
And so she's biased. She's saying she's supposed to be independent and have her own law firm. She hasn't replied to any of my emails. I have no idea where my son is. All she does is object to everything, change the script transcripts, work on this, work on that. She seems to be running the show. She seems to, at this point, even trying to override the judge's order. And I do want to say this. I have a really kick-ass attorney, and I'm not really a cursing person, but he really has, made me feel like I could breathe a little bit, because when you're getting bullied and attacked and falsely accused while you're trying to grieve the temporary loss of a child who you don't have any idea where he's at and he's disabled, it's hard. So Jay came in and he's filing to have her removed from the case for several violations in my case. There's things she's not doing, things she should be doing, ethical, professional, legal things that she has not done. And it's not because I don't agree with her decisions, even though I don't. It's because her decisions are based on nothing. Her decisions are based on money, most likely, and I don't know what the motivation is here, honestly.
Well,
I can't tell what the motivation is.
In other cases like this that I've seen, it seems like there is like an organization of people that are doing this for financial gain. You've got this woman, acts as guardian ad litem. She makes the call to have your child removed or say that you have to get counseling of one kind or another, and they'll have specific individuals that have to be those people that you have to get the counseling from. You have to pay this fine. The judge is involved. It's really scary. And you had mentioned something about the medical aspect. Because of the nature of your son's disabilities. Can you expound on that a little bit?
What I can say is, prior to them removing my son, they had a conference with his doctor at Children's Hospital, and they had wanted him off of his seizure medication. And I just found out about this today. From what I'm hearing, and these are other sources, this is not me, but that there's certain children who have been taken from the, child services and are put into drug trials in these health homes and these medical facilities and these assessment centers that are near these children's hospitals, and they're put on having tests done and putting on trials. And I've had 2 people call me anonymously, saying to me that they know where my son is. Now, I'm not saying this is true, so God, please,
Sure.
please don't make, because my words have been twisted. Somebody at Fox wanted to do my story and twisted that up. I said, I have had 2 people call me and say, I know where your son is. He's in a medical research study, and he's in an underground medical facility over by the hospital. Now, if I were to tell you that, as a regular mom going every day through regular life, you would think I'm nuts. But when you have somebody call from NIH and say, hey, this child is here, or somebody who I don't know has his record number, his medical record number. I go check the records, it's the same. I'm saying, how do they know that? Where's my son? And why is this guardian ad litem not letting, let's just ask one simple question.
Yeah.
His siblings, his 2 older brothers and his sister, I'm gonna try not to cry, his 2 older brothers and his sisters, why can't they talk to him? They're not being accused.
No.
Those are his siblings. Didn't Governor Polis just sign a bill out here in Colorado that is a sibling act, a bill of rights for siblings?
I was not aware of that.
There's a sibling act. You're supposed to have communication. So we've lost him for 45 days, but he's lost everything wherever he is. But the medical aspect, you're right. There's also money involved, from what I'm hearing in this particular Twilight Zone world that I'm in right now, is that some of the parents that I've talked to, their children have been taken and experimented on for years in these different facilities because they do have rare conditions. And isn't it ironic that I'm being accused of fabricating his? And some of these children are taken because they're immediately adopted out. I haven't heard, and I probably wouldn't, I guess, because I'm not in that situation. So let's be fair. And I'm sure there's reasons that this organization, it's not all black and white, would have to remove an abused child. But I haven't just heard of any of those cases. And I've only heard of 3 out of probably 1,000 parents that have actually got their kids back. That's a problem.
You have heard of people who have gotten their kids back, or you have heard of people who have not gotten their kids back?
Out of about 1,000 parents that I've spoken with and connected with, I've heard of 3 of them that have gotten their kids back.
Oh, that's incredibly discouraging. I'm so sorry.
Maybe the statistics are different. I think Jim from Northwest Liberty News did a show last week. He had somebody on from Texas, and one of the women who's running for representative. She said that a couple of points. I think it was 655 children died last year under the department's custody in foster care. And then something like 120 died in their homes from abuse. This was all from abuse. So I'm like, wait a second, 6 times more are dying in foster care. So I'm trying not to let my head go there right now.
Right.
Because I haven't seen them. And the reality is some of these parents honestly haven't seen their kids in years.
And now, your lawyer, does he have any specific experience in this area? Has he dealt with other cases like this before?
He's never dealt with a case like this. My attorney is a constitutional rights attorney. He's an appellate attorney. He's a criminal defense attorney. Okay. He's also the former assistant attorney general for Colorado and Georgia, and he has a lot of experience with law. And I think that's where, if you're going to fight something like this, you really have to stick to, because no matter what I come up with, they're going to hit me. Like, for example, I go do my own drug test. They try to fake it. You go do this. They're angry. You're this mentally ill. You're not. There's always a reason to try to get you to try to kick the can for you not to see the child until they're permanently adopted out. I just want to clarify to you and to your audience, I don't have a abuse record. I don't have a drug record. I am not a violent person. I'm not somebody who, my house isn't dirty. We don't have, there were no allegations of any of that. The only piece of paper I have, because his entire file is still missing, says possible misrepresentation of illness as the reason.
Now, specifically with that, I mean, obviously, based on your son's history, there are volumes and volumes of documented records showing that you have not made this up. I mean, he has been very sick and disabled for his whole life. So have you been in contact with his old doctors and his old physicians back in your former state of residence to get that for you?
Yeah, well, I have all his files. When you have a child of this nature, you generally have to keep the files updated. Not that I go through them, but I have them on a CD. I did call back to his doctor, Dr. Wong. I think you might see that transfer letter. That was his pediatrician from birth until he was 5, till he is 5. Birth to 5, and then when we transferred out here, when he was about 5.5, almost 6, Dr. Wong was trying to find a reason for his seizures and wanted to send him out here. I think that letter says so he doesn't have any more extensive brain damage.
Right. Yes, it does.
Yeah. So, I mean, you can't, at this point, I don't know what else they're going to come up with, but they're not producing him. And I don't know what happens, and maybe somebody in your audience, I don't know if you have a chat room, I can't see it on this particular camera.
There is a chat,
Maybe somebody out there knows, so that you do the writ of habeas corpus, then the first response is always by the department to, or by anybody, I guess, with the government agency that, and this is what I found out, I'm not a lawyer, their first response was, instead of to produce the body, their first response was to dismiss it and say they did everything legal. And my attorney now is going to write a response to them, and we'll see what that says. He knows how to. He's also going to include as an addendum their what happened this past Wednesday, where I lost my right to appeal. So I think in that writ that I sent you, it has, what does it have? No due process, no right service, no effective counsel, he put in there that they fabricated the petition and made it seem emergent. And the other thing, folks, you need to know if you're involved in anything with this department or this particular agency is there has to be an emergency to take your kid right away. I mean, you don't wait 4 or 5 months to casually kind of see somebody unless something, and then all of a sudden pull them out. It's just, nothing happened on that Friday to make it an emergency, I guess is what I'm trying to say.
I mean, it indicates to me, and I'm sure many other people in the audience, that, the premeditated action of the whole situation. I mean, they were seeking out a reason, they were observing you, they were looking for a reason to take him, and they were able to put it all together with a bunch of different corrupt individuals. Now, didn't the court also misrepresent some of the statements of your son's physicians as well? They fabricated some statements to make it seem like they had said that you were making up these illnesses or something like that. I thought I read that.
Is that yeah, I think that's in Megan's article.
Yeah.
His head doctor emailed me and said that she told them, this is a sick child, don't take him. And they told her, this is the head worldwide famous, not famous, but world. She goes to here to there to learn about, she's a genetic neurologist, they told her, your input doesn't matter.
Really?
Now, this is the doctor. This is a 24, 25-year-old caseworker with a criminal justice degree or a bachelor's in social services telling this doctor, your input doesn't matter. We're going to take him anyway. That to me is mind-blowing. I follow the doctor's orders because I want to make sure my son's taken care of. Here's an agency that's mission statement is to have the best, interest of the child and the welfare of the child. We're not going to take your opinion.
That's
just
mind-blowing. I'm so sorry.
They worded it like that. They worded it like that in the allegations. They said that that she had to control my frantic thoughts because this it's a hard process to have a special needs son of this capacity.
I would imagine.
And then so of course you're anxious. So they asked me, "Are you anxious about it?" I said, "Of course I am." 2 years ago when my son had the big seizures, or a year and a half ago when we moved out here, which is why Dr. Wong transferred us, my son came home from the hospital without, a totally different person. And if you've ever seen a traumatic brain injury, that's what happened. So here I had this child that I had this bond with. How as a parent, you have all these little silly things you do with your kid, and these little, just, silly, stupid little things that you do that just keep that bond between you. Maybe a dad has it with his son, or a daughter, and mom has it with the son or the daughter. And it's just something unique to the two of you with that, bond. So here comes this child home, my son, and his memory's wiped out, and his sequencing is gone, and it's heartbreaking. And they're trying to say, well, you have anxiety about that. And my answer to them is, if you're going to remove children from everybody in the United States of America that has anxiety, then you better build some more homes, because I think 30% of Americans have anxiety. I don't know what to tell you.
No, I mean, I completely agree. And despite that, the very situation, I mean, the scrutiny that you're being put under, the fact that they can just take your kids like this, you might not have known it, like totally when it started, but I'm sure that over the process, you were getting even more and more anxious just having to deal with this situation, these people intrusively coming into your life, and putting you under a microscope. And even if someone is completely innocent, I mean, just the very act of having someone examine every portion of your life, I mean, that would be stressful in and of itself.
Well, it didn't appear like they were doing that. But I'll tell you what really stressed me out is when my daughter was in ICU hooked up to machines because they didn't follow her therapist's order.
Now,
my teenage daughter cannot be interviewed without a support and without in her office, and they refuse. And I think when you just looked up that thing with that guardian ad litem, they will not interview my daughter. They will not let her record. They will not let her have a lawyer present. They will not let anybody else in there. And they say policy guidelines of the department. And I said, listen, you've lied in court. You falsified a petition about me and my son. Why would you think I'm going to put my daughter in that situation? They're saying, sorry, we got to do it alone. We're going to take her if you don't let us interview her. I mean, it's like a threat. They leave one at home, take one to kind of leverage it out. In my case, anyway.
It's just incredible. I
don't know what's going to happen. I would love to come back and give you guys an update, and I could have my little guy on here if he comes home, when he comes home.
I would love that, definitely. I'm sure the audience would too.
Yeah, I don't know where he's at. If anybody's out there I'd appreciate prayers. I would love prayers. If anybody has any ideas that they've dealt with anything like this before and it's worked for them, and anybody's willing to help, if they can reach out to you, if you'd be willing to that. I also have an email. bringmichaelhome1111@gmail.com. I'm doing a GoFundMe, which goes to all my attorney's fees. I think because that's on the bottom of Megan's article.
I'm not trying to. I've shared it.
Yeah, I'm not trying to do an. Oh, are you? Okay,
yeah,
I can't.
Don't worry. It's okay. I've shared it. I've also shared your email address. Actually, I spelled it wrong, so we'll fix that.
Yeah. The Bring Michael Home 1111 is the one that I'm really only checking right now. What else could I tell you? Yeah, just pray that he comes home. My hope right now is that somebody will see him. And God, I don't want to start praying, because nobody has talked to him or seen him in 45 days. And my mind as a mom wonders, not only is my heart grieving, but where is he?
Of course.
And why won't they let him talk to his brothers? Why can't he talk to his grandma and grandpa? Why can't he talk to his aunt? Why can't anybody talk to him? That seems very bizarre to me.
Well, someone has actually already emailed me about you. What is the next step? I mean, legally, where can you go? I mean, since your appeal was denied, what is it? Just waiting now to see if they are going to be willing to allow you to find any information?
I don't know what my attorney's going to do, but after this past week, I'm sure he's working on something. I'm trying to look through some of the adoption sites to see if I see his picture. I just keep doing shows like this to try to reach out to see if anybody knows anything, if anybody's heard anything. The weekends are tough because nothing's really open, and that was a lot of special time we had together.
Yeah. Oh, I'm so sorry, Cyndie.
And what I'm doing is during the week, I'm really trying to press on and take any of the anger about this situation. And here, I'm going to get a picture. I got a picture of him right here.
Oh, please, yeah.
Yeah, this is him. This is him, guys.
Oh, he's beautiful.
Can you see that? I don't know if you can see that.
Yeah, we can see, yeah.
The light's shining right in it, huh?
Yeah, no, he's a precious little boy.
That's him. That's Michael. So he has glasses now. So that was taken a couple years ago. I just happened to keep that up here when I'm talking. And boy, do I miss him. And I don't usually get emotional like this on these shows. To be honest with you, I'm trying not to, because I know that I need to keep my chin up and keep moving forward so I can get him back. Because the horror stories that I'm hearing about some of these parents, they never see their grandkids or kids again.
Don't feel bad. You know, I can only imagine what you're going through. You know, I mean, no one's going to fault you for crying. But someone has sent me a message and suggested that you contact Field McConnell. His email address is fieldmcc@yahoo.com. He has a contact named Carol Keene. She lives in Ohio, and people say that she can assist you specifically with this case. And that she works on things like this. Am I
supposed to be writing this down right now?
You go ahead and get a pen, and I'll let you know what it is when
Unless you want to forward it to. Okay, hang on. Maybe you can say that for the other listeners too, if anybody ever. Yeah. I mean, I don't know.
I'll put it. I'll put your email address into the chat, and I'll put Field's email address into the chat as well.
Okay, I can't see the chat. Who am I? Can you say that again for me?
It would be FIELD MCC at yahoo.com.
Okay, and they want me to email that person?
Yes, his name is Field. Go ahead and email him. Let him know that you were on my program. Brief synopsis of the situation, and he'll be able to help.
Okay, perfect. Thank you so much. I can't see that down there because if I see your logo, but tell him thank you, whoever sent that in.
No problem. You would actually have to have the show playing to be able to see the chat, so it's okay. Oh. Don't worry.
Sorry about that.
You're getting lots of prayers, though. Many people are very supportive. Many people who have been through this same situation to one degree or another, so...
Well, also, if anybody I can help, you know, there's a couple people that I'm helping out there right now that it's interesting. It's once you have this experience, you it seems to fill, as long as I'm doing something to help somebody towards finding my son and finding out his whereabouts and in resolving to get him home, or helping somebody else with theirs. It feels like I can be okay. You know what I mean? And I think that one of the tactics, and I'm not going to be so long-winded anymore. I think one of the tactics is let's make you so crazy or sad or mad that you lose your mind, and then we can say I told you so, and then you're right into the classes that you said you never needed. Right. I feel like that's kind of it sometimes. So I'm trying real hard to work on my self-care. Make sure, folks, if anybody else is going through anything like this, you know, my suggestion would be to make sure you're really trying to take care of yourself. A lot of people don't, from what I'm understanding, they don't get right on the ball or can't figure it out. I think that whistleblower guy helped me a lot in the beginning when he told me what was going on with the business model.
Yeah.
I think that was, you know, I don't think a lot of people have that. So if I can get the word out and share that, hey, once you sign up for services, you now have a contract, or whether it's passive or not, with the department. Once you sign something, you now are in contract with them. So if I would have signed up for the appointment maker, do you know what that would have meant? That would have meant I'm agreeing with you all that I need this service because I can't handle my appointments. Well, what it really would have meant is I agree with you that I have all these things that I never saw until I got to the courtroom on what this lady wrote. You see what I mean? It's a passive confession. Oh, yeah, it's the way you're getting. Yes, you get it? Yeah. And I didn't get that till about a week into it. So let's say they have it written down that you're, you know, violent or whatever. That wasn't my case, and then you go in there and they say, well, you know, we want to offer this counseling for you with this person. She's so sweet. We think that would help you. Well, I do have a little bit of a temper. Let's say somebody says they go down and they want to take this because they really want to get their life better. They really want to help themselves. They go down and sign this thing. They get into a courtroom. All of a sudden, they've agreed that they're violent, Your Honor, because they've signed up for, They needed our therapist, whatever it is. And I think I avoided that. And that's what I'm seeing over and over and over again in these services. And they can last, and they push the services out for 18 months until you're adopted. The child's adopted.
Yep.
It just seems, I know I said I wouldn't talk long. Sorry about that.
No, it's okay. I want to talk about this as much as you need to. I mean, this is extremely important, and if we can help just one family not have to go through this, I mean, it's totally worth it. We can talk as long as we need to. I mean, I've seen a lot of people in the chat who have gone through something like this, I've seen it, in people around me as well. And actually, somebody wants to give you Field's phone number as well. Do you still have that?
Okay. Oh, I want to do a shout out to everybody that a woman from Texas contacted me, and we're going to have a march. There's going to be a march coming up October 1st, and I'll give you the dates, Red Pill, when I get them. It's going to be a march in D.C., and they're working on, they wanted us to go up in March. It's going to be to help investigate and reform CPS. And we're going to be marching October 1st. They're getting campgrounds. I'm not sure of the route yet, but I'll send it to you so you can have, be posted on that. And anybody who wants to come and participate that's been a victim of this or has a family member or just wants to come out and support and think, we're hoping to get some oversight in this agency to protect our children. I mean, this is America. We need to protect our kids here in our Constitution.
Right. No, unfortunately, all too often, the exact opposite is happening here in America. I mean, the foster care system is essentially a revolving door for child traffickers. I mean, they just recently released a study from the department, from the State Department, showing that 60% of American child abused slaves, we'll say, come out of the foster care system. They go in, and there is overwhelming evidence showing that that they are going to be placed with an abuser, and it doesn't change. I mean, this is they're never found. Yeah, they just disappear.
Did you see the article? If anybody didn't see it, of what happened in Italy?
I've only recently heard about that. All the coverage that I saw was in Italian, but it seems like, again, there is an organized group of people inside the government that are taking children and placing them into homes where they are going to be trafficked and going to be abused 100%.
What they were doing is, I think there were 18, and I'm not trying to go off the subject, but with my son not being home, you know how many people called me with that saying, is that go? And then there was the whole Megan Fox and James White, all of them talking about, is that happening here? And that's hard for me to go there when my son's still missing. And, there's 18 people, the mayor, the caseworkers, social workers, were all involved in a ring. But what they were doing is they called it the little memory machine. They were doing electric convulsive shocks on the kid's head while they were holding up sex abuse pictures to try to make kids think they were sexually abused by their parents so they could remove them and sell them. That's what they were doing. They got caught doing that. Isn't that unbelievable? Brainwashing and shocking the kids, the babies.
I mean, it's horrible, but unfortunately, it's not shocking to me. It's like, I know that this stuff goes on. It's just awful to hear about it. I mean, it's one of those things that many people have a very hard time reconciling in their minds, because people know that it exists, but it's not something that gets talked about enough, I mean, this is something that gets swept under the rug. It's too uncomfortable for people to deal with, but this is happening all around us. It's disgusting. Okay, let me give you Field's
46
number.
days ago, to be honest with you. I must have been in my own Truman's world. I had no idea this was going on.
Yeah.
I had no idea they were shocking kids' brains. I got a call from one lady who said she escaped out of the kidnapping here. She saw all the little babies. They were experimenting. I mean, I got to watch out for that because I can't go down any rabbit holes right now.
Right.
But it's super enlightening, and I'm having to process really quick all this knowledge. Think about it. You get to see somebody who's not awake, and they're coming out going, and I think you can tell that I'm believable because there's times that I'm kind of looking off on, geez, is this really happening? Yeah, my son was kidnapped by a government agency. You can't call up a hotline and say that because they're going to say, sure, and you've got the schizophrenia next,
Right.
My son's kidnapped by a government agency. Who can I go to? Nobody.
No.
You know, who can you go to? That's why we're all powering up together. If anybody feels low or blue or needs to talk, email me, and I'll see if I'm available to do that, because I can't tell you the suicide rate Megan Fox reported on this is so high, because when they rip the kids out, there's really no support.
No.
They count on the consensus of the general public to say there's got to be more to the story. You know, I'm going to stay away from you for a little bit. Your kid was taken.
Yeah.
And then what you really need is the support.
Right. I can see how easily this would cause people to just lose hope. You know, I mean, the government, by all rights, they should be protecting us. You know, these agencies are there for the reason of our protection, you know, to step in and help us out in certain situations, when too often, in fact, they're doing the opposite. They're protecting people who are going to be harming our children. And it's the worst possible thing that you can imagine. Let me give you Field's number. Let me give you Field's number.
Yeah. And I want to make a point. I don't think it's everybody, because it never is.
No.
It's not everybody in the whole Department of Human Services, you know what I mean? And there's people who join up and go to school and really want to do this to help kids.
Yeah.
But I'm sure, but there's ringleaders. What's Field's number?
It's 715-307 8222.
Is that a
I don't know
what time? Do you know what time zone that is?
I don't know. No.
Okay. I mean, okay.
You know, and obviously, everyone, it's not everyone in the government. You know, it's just enough people.
Yeah, I want to make sure of that. But it's kind of like when you're looking for a new car, you see it everywhere. And when you just start to, you start to have this, it's like, wow, I can't believe this is happening.
Yeah. Yeah, you know, and it's people that are doing it, and then I'm sure that there are people who are looking the other way. Then there are people who absolutely have no idea that it's taking place. They're just blissfully ignorant. Looks like Field is in Texas, so that is Central Time.
Can you still hear me okay?
I can still hear you, yeah.
Okay, I got a call come in, sorry about that. Somebody here within this organization, I looked at her, and I don't know if she'll ever hear this or not, but I think she actually doesn't want to be doing this. I looked at her and I said, why is this happening? Why are you guys doing that? And her response to me was, my hands are tied with the powers that be.
Wow.
So you tell me.
So that's straight from the top. Yeah.
Yeah.
Now, have you thought about perhaps going to a higher level law enforcement agency like the state police or the FBI or anything like that?
I've contacted the FBI twice, and I have not received. They told me that if anybody was interested in pursuing this, I would get a call.
Wow, that's just incredible.
And I said, well, my son is missing. His file is missing. He's disappeared, and I don't know what to do. And they said, they said, who took him? And I said, well, the Department of Human Services. And the FBI said, oh. In other words, there was a reason, at least that's what it sounded like. So I did try. If anybody knows a way to get the evidence there, I think you have my case summary and timeline. That's not all the evidence, of course, by any means, but that's kind of a nutshell to show you, hey, I didn't do this, guys. They stole them.
Well, I know that I have lawyers that watch the program, so, I'm going to put it out there. If anyone has the ability to help in this situation, please do reach out. I can put you in contact with Cyndie, and we can do what we can. Just had a couple of people who had sent some super chats throughout the interview. Cyndie, let me just give a quick shout out to them. Jeff Stewart, thank you very much for that super chat. Phil Thompson, the same. Ben Schwagel said, that's as bad as the bad guys in World War II. Sorry, I cannot say that word out loud because that will immediately shut down the stream. Q sent me 4 said, Linda Collins Smith was the senator from Arkansas who was murdered on 5/28 or between 5/28 and 6/4, and she was ready to bust open a case about CPS ties in Arkansas to child trafficking and WW. I don't know what that means, but she needs help from your congressman or senator in Colorado. If you can potentially reach out to them, I don't know how much that would do. But
I've already done that. Yeah, thank you, though. I appreciate that.
Worth a shot. Susan Huber, thank you for that super chat. Same to Otis T. Baggins. Nick the nurse said, thank you for bringing this to light. God bless the family and all the others who are victims of this horror. And Diana Davenport said field is actually in Plum City, Wisconsin, so still Central Time Zone. But his veteran ranch project is in Texas, and he may move there. For now, it's Wisconsin. All right. Well, we are running a little bit over. I have shared the GoFundMe, and so has several of my mods.
Oh, thank you.
Of course.
I can't see it. I really appreciate that. I generally, on these shows, I've been forgetting to talk about that, and my lawyer is not free, and I am not rich. So it's certainly not a plea to help, go on a vacation or get my hair done. I'm trying to find my son, and I really appreciate anybody that contributes anything. I really, really appreciate it.
Yeah, definitely. And I just want to say that this was set up by a friend of yours. So is that correct? Because it looks like it's written from a different perspective. My dearest friend is a single parent of 4 children.
Yeah, so, my friend in Georgia set that up. Asha.
Okay. Yeah.
Is that who's on there on the GoFundMe? Asha. Yeah, she told me she did that.
Yeah. So I just want everybody to know that, so that you are at the correct GoFundMe. And then Alexandria Occasional Cortex just sent a super chat too and said, for Lucy, taken 7 years ago. Sounds like another child that was taken by CPS.
Oh, God bless. I'll be in prayer for him. Tell him.
Yeah, so sorry for that. All right, guys. Well, anything that you want to leave us with, Cyndie, and like I said earlier in the interview, as soon as you have any information, please do come back on the program. I'm willing to have you back at any time, because thank
you so much.
All of us are praying for you. We are thinking about you and Michael, and I don't want to leave this story alone. I want to follow it to its conclusion, and that's when he's back with you at home.
Thank you so much. I just want to say thank you to everybody and spread the words, and I just want to say thank you, and just thanks for the prayers, and I thank you for letting me share my story to hopefully get him home sooner. I appreciate that.
All right, excellent. Well, I'm so sorry once again that this has happened. And as I said, we will continue to pray for you. Thank you so much for joining us, Cyndie, and I'm sure that we'll be in touch together soon.
You got it. You guys have a great night.
All right, thank you so much. Yep,
Happy 4th of July, too.
Happy 4th of July to you as well.
Okay,
Yep,
bye.
bye-bye.